guys.
A shit show, a pure shit show. It literally takes a village.
I don't know if it was dirty or clean.
Oh my god.
Bad mom.
Like
Gone
that
wild. Yes.
Because I'm shining.
Woo! That was good, guys.
Cheers.
Oh, I always.
But I love how you don't ever drink, Janelle.
She doesn't.
I forget.
I don't rarely drink that much either, but Dodgers are playing, so, and it's
Have a drink to that.
Special occasion.
All right. Welcome, Stella. Thank you so much for being on our show and being willing to share your story with us. We want to start by you introducing yourself. Tell us your story. How did your journey as a single mom begin?
Okay. So my name's Stela. I am from Fresno. I'm 37 years old, and man, I was 21 when I got pregnant. So yeah, I turned 22 the month after I had my daughter. So my daughter is 15 years old. Her name's Catalina. Man, before I had her, I was pretty free spirited and very spontaneous and just did whatever I wanted. I just want to live life. And then I had her and I had to grow up so fast.
Yeah.
My journey changed immediately after I had her.
Now, were you in a relationship, or a long-term relationship before you had her?
I met her dad when I was 19 years old. We were both pretty free-spirited kind of people, just want to have fun, and just, he was older than I was. And then, about a year and a half into it, we got pregnant.
Oh, okay. And so when did you become a single mom?
She was 5 months old.
Oh, right after.
Yeah, pretty much right after. It started because, right when I got pregnant, my mindset, I feel just changed immediately, to mom mode. Like I said, I was pretty free spirited, and I didn't have I don't feel at the time I had goals and aspirations. It was more I wanted to live life. I wanted to experience it, because I'm actually from a small town called Mendota, about 45 minutes outside of Fresno. It's my graduating class was 100 people.
Wow.
It's a small town, 10,000 people in the town. So my parents were really strict, especially my dad. So I don't feel I got to fully enjoy my life. I mean, I wouldn't say it was bad. I just feel it was so restricted because my parents were so strict. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to do things, and my friends were, out having parties and doing this and having boyfriends and all these things. And I couldn't do any of those things because I had eyes on me all the time. So once I turned 18, I felt that's all I wanted to do was just live life, So I moved around. I lived up in North for a little while. I moved down south for a little while. And it was just about experiencing life. It wasn't I had any how some people graduate and they're oh, I'm going to this school and I'm going to become this, and I just didn't have that in me yet. Mm-hmm. And so when I was pregnant, that switched. It was man, I don't have anything. I don't have an education. I don't have a job. I did have a job, but I felt I didn't have a career ahead of me. Mm-hmm. I was just I don't have pretty much my shit together, in a sense. So that switched in me right away. And I think for him, it didn't. Actually, I feel it went the opposite way. He still wanted to live this life that I couldn't. It couldn't be just whatever. It had to be I don't know. In my heart, it felt I need to get my shit together right now.
To grow up,
Yeah. My mentality just changed. And when I was pregnant, towards the end already, I started to already feel our relationship was not going to last. I just felt it. We were just going in different directions. He was not following I don't know if I just felt he didn't have the urgency to become more responsible and have a plan, get things together. And so I just knew it in my heart, we weren't going to last. But I had the baby. And I stayed a month with my mom just to like, I don't figure it out because it's pretty scary, your first month.
Mm-hmm.
And that young.
Yeah, I was pretty young. And
I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to interrupt you because I want to know, was he in the delivery room or was it just you and your mom?
no, he was there.
Oh, okay. So he
Yeah, they
still
were
was
both
there
in the
for part of,
yeah,
yeah.
they were both there in the delivery room. But that night, so we were living in Santa Rosa at that time. He had moved over there for like a job, and so I committed to move with him, just to see if we can make things work.
Mhm.
Because it was my first kid, and I didn't want to be. I was like, man, maybe it's just me, right? Like maybe I'm just feeling different, and maybe like when the baby comes, it'll be like we're a family, and you have these hopes that like it'll work out. So I gave it a shot. So that night that I had her, he ended up having to leave that night to go back to work to Santa Rosa. So my mom spent the night with me at the hospital and he didn't. And he actually never signed the birth certificate. So
What?
yeah,
Wow, I
he
never knew
never
that.
signed it. No. So his name's on there because I said,
Added him.
yeah,
Yeah.
he never signed it. So it's just me really.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, interesting, right? Like he hasn't until this day, he's never like inquired about it or tried to like put his name on it. So we just left it that way.
And
Yeah.
did you guys like share custody? Like once you guys split up, what did you guys end up doing?
No, it was all me in the beginning. Okay, so we lived together in Santa Rosa for a little while. We got into this big um fight and it was kind of like my final straw. And I moved back home. I just left and I never looked back after that. It was just too, I mean, I won't go into the details, but it was really damaging for me. Like it was really traumatic. So I just left. Like I packed up everything and I came to my parents and that was it. Like I never looked again. Um, and when when I went back home, I really fell into a like huge depression because like I said, I didn't know I had left the job that I was working in. I had left, my kid's dad. I have a newborn baby, well, 5 months old, but it's still pretty new.
That's pretty
You're
newborn.
hormonal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't in school and college, I kind of messed around when I was 18, 19. So I wasn't serious about school or anything like that. So I was like, man, what am I going to do with my life? So I fell into a huge depression, but my parents helped me out a lot. My mom helped me with the baby a lot, taught me how to like take care of her more and just how to be patient with, the crying at night and all those things. And my dad was the one that pushed me and he said, you need to get a job or go back to school. And he goes, not because you need it, but because for your mental health,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you need to just get right and have like something that you could work towards. So that's how I started like kind of picking myself up a little bit from that point. But the custody part, no, it was when he moved back after that. So he moved to Fresno and we had agreements like, okay, you take her one weekend, I'll have her the weekends. And we just kind of worked that way for a while. Um, but
But
there
it wasn't
were
a
like,
court order? No. It
no,
was
we've
just okay.
never done the court. I've tried doing the child support thing, but um, he hasn't worked since then. Like to this day, he has not
Like on
worked.
purpose
I
to
don't
not pay child support or?
no, I don't think it's not to pay child support. I think it's other issues.
Okay.
He
um,
never got his priorities straight, probably.
right, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I have no communication with. I have minimal communication with him at this point, but yeah, I've never gotten anything from him. I mean, other than like his family maybe helping out, like his grandparents, when she was little would buy her clothes and like they take her out and do those things, but like to give me money, it was never. That was
So
never.
what would you say were like pros and cons of having the baby go between you guys? Like having her one weekend versus the other weekend?
Well, the thing about it is that like his relationship with me is different from his relationship with our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
He may not like work or give child support and those things for whatever his reasons are, but his relationship with him was really good when she was little.
Mhm.
He played with her, he took care of her, he always wanted to see her. I knew he loved her, so I couldn't just not, like, you didn't give me child support, I'm gonna keep her,
Mhm.
because the relationship, I feel like that's something aside from our problem, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept our communication real minimal because I never wanted to argue with him because I already knew, like, he wasn't going to give me anything. And so why waste my time trying to get something from him? It was more like, okay, you're not going to get nothing. Like, how am I going to survive? How am I going to do this? It was more about like finding it deep inside me to figure things out without having to like spend so much time arguing in courts and all this stuff. I just felt like I was just so draining on parents. Like I've heard before, like other relationships where they're just in and out of court and just they can't ever settle, and it's just so much bickering and fighting. And I'm like, you know what, this guy is not going to give me anything. I'm just going to have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like those experiences have really like given me a tougher skin.
Was it hard for you though, like at first, to allow him to take her? Was she really young, like a couple months old? I mean, she was 5 months old, right, when you guys had separated or
Yes.
broke up.
Yeah.
So that's still a newborn, was it hard for
Right.
you to kind of like let
Let it
him
go with
have
him.
her for a weekend,
No, not
no,
not really, because like I said, I knew he loved her and I knew he would take care of her.
and you trusted him, you
Yes,
trusted him.
with her, yes.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, so that wasn't an issue. I mean, there was some times when if there was issues like happening when she was there, I was always aware of it, so I could go pick her up right away, or if there was some sort of situation. But for the most part, I know he loves her. I know he like cries with her. His personal issues or whatever sometimes kind of come in between them two.
Hmm.
Um, but like at this point, she's a teenager. She's kind of like she's developed her own relationship with him where she can make the decision if she wants to spend time with him or not. Or I let them communicate all that on their own at this point. And actually, since she was smaller, I've always let her have a say in what she wants with him.
How long did your depression last when you remember you said that were depressed right
Um,
after?
like a postpartum depression. Oh,
Yeah.
I months and off and on for years, I guess, just, and it was more of the like, how do you get to a point where like, okay, so I got to do something. So then I went back to school. And so then, all right, I'm doing good. Like I'm getting my school done, I'm getting my units, I'm going towards something. And then it's like, now what, and then you go back into a depression because you're like, I don't know what to do with this, so it's like every step that
Misstep. Hmm.
you kind of start to feel like, now what, and then it's like, because for me, it was always trying to work towards like giving her a better life. But then it's like, you get to a point and you're just like, where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm.
What's the
Yeah.
next thing, So, and I'm a very anxious person. I get anxiety. So I have to really think things through before I move to the next thing.
Did you have like a mentor or anybody who was like another single mother that you kind of looked up to that can kind of like guide you or give you advice or?
Uh, no, I but my mom walked me through a lot of stuff. Um, she's not a single mom. My parents are still married, but she
Mhm.
had a lot of insight on just how to treat my kid. She was like, talk to your kid, let her know this, um, just, be patient with her, all these like little just advice here and there,
Mhm.
is what helped me get through it. Um, but as far as like, oh, I looked up to someone else who was a single mom, not that I can recall that I had someone specific, but no, I was so busy just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Your parents, for how long did you get to live with your parents for?
Well, so I lived with my parents, up until she was about, man, when did we go to college to Fresno State? It was like '07, right? 08.
Yeah.
We went to Fresno State together, and that's where me and Marianne met. But at that time, it was probably like in 08, so like 3 years with my parents, I think,
Oh,
and
okay.
like 3 or 4 years, and then that year, I don't know if you remember this, Marianne, but there was a time she was in kindergarten. My daughter was in kindergarten, and I was driving back and forth. I was commuting every day to go to school and work and everything in Fresno. And it got to the point where I was just like so drained. I was failing classes. It was just so draining because I would leave early in the morning and my kid was asleep. I'd get home late at night and she was asleep. So I never spent time with her. And so I think those things were really like getting to me. And I just started to like lose a lot of motivation in school and all this and work, and just it was just hard. And then I moved to Fresno on my own, well, with friends, like a roommate, but I moved by myself without my daughter for a year.
Oh,
So every
really?
weekend I
And
was
she
going.
stayed with your parents.
Yeah, she stayed with my parents, and because at the time my thinking was, if I can just get through school and finish it, then we can just like
A better
just be
life.
like 1 year to just get through school and we can move in together and we'll be fine, right? Like after that,
Mhm.
I'll have a more stable job and all this stuff. But no, there was just too many distractions, and um, it's hard to be away from your kid. You know, even if my plan was to just 1 year, I just need 1 year to finish school, and I just couldn't. It
And
was hard.
how far were you? Were you like driving distance where you can come on the weekend, or was
Yeah,
it like a full
45 minutes.
year? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was going every weekend to get her, and but it was hard. I was missing out on her life, and then I was also missing out on my own time with friends and like doing college things. Like I was like, I want to do, all these things with you guys, like go out to the clubs, and and I couldn't because I had
A
my kid
responsibility.
at
Yeah.
home, and it was really hard to like balance that.
Good thing you had your
Laughing
parents then.
because
They're
I'm
saying
like
that they
thinking
helped
about
you.
college.
Well, you remember, I think a couple times I was with her in your bathroom, right, Marianne, while you guys were getting ready, and then I was like, okay, bye guys, have fun. And I'm like with my kid, like, see you guys. But like the time that they were getting ready, that was my time to hang out with them. And they were like,
Yeah.
just how you get kind of pumped while you're getting ready, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm having fun. And then it was like, okay, bye guys, go to the bathroom.
So,
I'm like,
from all of the different stages of her life, what do you feel like was the toughest stage for you? Not because she was tough, but just like being
As a
like raising
single
her
parent.
alone, you know?
probably when she was like young, before like since she was like born till like I don't know, maybe about 7, 8,
Oh,
9.
so the first.
Yeah, those were the harder years because for one, I was young, so I don't know. I mean, well, new mom, whether you're young or older, I guess maybe the experience is like, oh, like kind of shocking at first. Like, oh, I wasn't thinking it was gonna be like this. Like,
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
beginning, you're losing sleep. You're like, you're so annoyed with all the cries, and you're like, what do you want?
You're
Like,
like, what is
Yeah.
this?
I did everything and you're still crying. So those were hard. Those were definitely hard. And then finally the stage of moving away from my mom, because I was like, okay, I'm on my own now. Like I have to take care of this kid, which I love so much, but now it's by myself. Like no mom to help me out. So if I'm
Right.
in the shower and she needs something, like I gotta jump out. Like,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
no mom like, oh, leave her alone. She's in the shower.
Mhm.
And then just I was in my 20s, so you know, just thinking about all the things that I was missing out on, it was kind of hard for me. But yeah, then after that, it was like it was fine. I mean, I still went through stuff with her, but they were not as hard as when she was smaller.
So, how did you get to go out at all? Did you ever like make time for that and kind of get that little outlet of like having a couple girl nights or
Yeah,
dating?
once in a while. Yeah, once in a while I would get my parents would watch her, and or if she went with her dad for the weekend. So I would try to take advantage of that and go hang out.
Mhm.
But it wasn't all the time. And then also I had to consider, do I have the money to go out? Because You know, I wasn't very financially stable yet. You know, I was still starting off, you know, I was in college. I was still trying to figure out my life.
Was there ever a time that your daughter like cried because she didn't want to go and she wanted to stay with you? Because you know, like when they're toddlers, there's certain stages where they're super clingy. Even as
Yeah.
babies, like when they're 8 months and they're like all they want is mom. Did she ever go through anything like that when she was really young where it was like heartbreaking for you to like leave or not leave but like give her like hand her over, you know?
Yeah, yeah, there was sometimes. I don't necessarily know if it was because she was clingy to me because I know um she had been used to being with dad, you know, but
Yeah.
I sometimes I think that she just there was times when I know she would come back and tell me um dad didn't want to do what I want to do or didn't want to watch TV like my shows, and so she would be bored, and so she didn't want to go because they it wasn't like her weekend, it was like I have to do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, if you ever meet my kid, you'll she's got a big personality. And so she's very outspoken. She'll tell you what she wants, what she likes, what she doesn't like, you know, so she'll let you know that, hey, I want to do this. And if you don't want to, she'll probably like feel like you're not wanting to pay attention to her or do, you know, like spend the time with her.
Okay.
So yeah, so I don't necessarily think it was because she was clinging to me. I just think that maybe there was just times that she just didn't like visiting because they weren't really
On
into
her
what.
agenda.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then only child, right? Like she wants to do what she wants to do.
Yeah. So how was there ever a time where like you worried about him having another woman around your daughter? Like how did you respond to that? Because I know a lot of moms, it's kind of hard for them to envision another woman raising their daughter or being around or playing mom, you know?
Right. Yeah, that it's crossed my mind. I don't know how I was gonna feel. I think for the most part, I wanted to know who she was because I wanted to know, not because I cared who he was dating or like, I mean, that's totally up to him, right? That's his life. But I wanted to know how she was because I wanted to know how she would treat my kid.
Mm-hmm.
I knew since the moment that I left him, not necessarily at the moment, but like I knew after that point, at any point he could date anyone else, and that other person was going to be my kid's stepmom, right? Or potentially be her stepmom. But I just wanted to, if that ever happened, which that I know if he's only dated one girl since we've been split up in the last 15 years. And I just always wanted to know like who she was, how she was, like did she have kids? I wanted to know what my kid's life was going to be like, not because I cared who he dated, if that makes any sense.
So did you want to meet her to see like because you had no feelings towards him and you just wanted to make sure she was good to your kids, would you want to meet her or
Well, I wanted to make sure they were serious first, you know, like,
Mhm.
hey, don't bring her around to some like girl that you're talking to because that's not what I was doing, right? Like, I was like, if I'm just talking to guys, like, you're not coming around my kid because I don't know. I'm not just going to be like, hey, there's this guy, and hey, there's this guy, and hey, there's this guy. You know, it's like, make sure it's something and that it's
Yeah.
going somewhere so that I know, like, okay, you guys are leading towards something serious, and my kid's eventually going to be in this woman's life, you know, and um, I just at that point it's like, okay, when it's serious, let me know so I know like who or how my kid's life is going to be when she's with you. You know, I just want to know who's going to be influencing her. Like who, like is this woman, does she have morals and values, and like is she going to respect my like my rules for her, and are they going to align, because I want to make sure that we don't have any conflict and my kid's going to have a good experience, you know, with wherever he potentially meets. And that's
Now,
all.
not everyone's so lucky to have an ex that agrees with that. Like a lot of times, or sometimes there's exes that are like, I don't care what you want. Like, no, you're not going to meet her. Like you have no say. So basically like you have to let go completely of that control of what goes on at their dad's house with their girlfriend? Like, did you ever go through anything like that? Because I know a lot of people who are currently going through that, and it's really hard to let go of that control over their child, you know?
Yeah, he dated one girl who she actually started a lot of issues with me. um because I think I was so on it, like I want to know who you are kind of thing, because she was spending time with him, that she didn't like me. All like, for her, she looked
In
at it
their
like
business.
I was in their business kind of thing. And I'm like, you have to understand, like, my kid's going to you, and I just need to know that she's safe and that she's happy there, and you're not treating her like shit because she's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's always scary. Like, who's gonna treat my kid like crap because they're not their kid?
Right.
And she took it like I was trying to get in their business, and I was like ruining their relationship, because it was causing friction between them two, I guess. Because she looked at it like I was in their business. And he would try to talk to me like, oh, can you just like tone it down? I'm like, no, I want to know what my kid's doing. Like, and she was little at the time, so it's like she can't like tell me, or she could, but it was very like,
Vague.
yeah, very vague. Like, and I'm like, wait, who's there? What happened? And one day I got really, and some points I feel like maybe I was a little over dramatic, but man, I was like mama bear at the time. I was always taking care of my kid as best as I could. And then the one weekend she goes with her dad, shit happens, and it's like, Dad. So she was playing, I guess, with her kids, and she happened to, like, I don't know, bump into like a table, and the TV fell on her foot. And he called me like frantic, like, oh my God, I don't know if it's broken or what. And I'm like, what the hell? And so I rushed over there, and I took her to go get x-rays and stuff, and it was fine. But I'm like, why weren't you watching her? And what was she doing? And why would she let her kids do this? And, you know, I didn't understand the relationship yet, like how the household was run. Not that I needed to know everything, but I didn't know them very well yet to say, like, like if they were to explain to me how things went down, where I wouldn't think it wasn't their fault. You know what I mean?
Right. You didn't give them the benefit of the doubt. You were like
Yeah,
very
right. I didn't.
protective. Yeah.
I'll admit it. I was like, oh, hell no, she's never going over there again. You guys don't even watch her. You guys are
Mhm.
probably like doing this and that. And like her kids are running around like crazy, and you don't even know where they're at. And yeah, my mind went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it caused a lot of problems. And I mean, I'll admit to it. I was that protective mama bear, and I didn't give a shit like what their excuses were, what they tried to explain to me, because I was just like, how could this happen the one weekend she's with you?
Yeah.
And like, what if it was worse, and you weren't watching them? But I mean, now I'm like, maybe I should have like heard them out a little bit more, maybe be more rational. But I was a young mom, and I was very protective.
And I think it's really hard when they're younger, like now, is it easier now that she's older? Like, cause she can speak for herself and tell
Oh,
you.
yes, like 1000%. She actually, like, she'll be there and she'll text me like, can you believe this, and tell me what's going on. I'm like, oh my God, just ignore it and just whatever, like, it's just so much easier to communicate with her about things. And like, I've already experienced so many things with her dad, so I understand what she's talking about when she's saying things. And I'm like, just let him talk. Don't worry about him talking shit about me, like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so much easier. And I think it's because, I mean, a big part again is just because I've built that relationship with her where we can be completely honest and not sugarcoat things and just talk about things. Like, it's just so much easier to know a lot more of what's going on when she's around her dads or around her friends or anywhere, really, because that communication has just been so open since she was younger.
Yeah, it seems like you've been very transparent with her, and that's why you guys have such a close relationship, because you tell her like it is, and this is how life works, but
Right.
this is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
solution.
And funny thing, so when I was buying this house, I actually included her in the process. I went and took her with me to look for houses. Like, she was there when I was talking to the realtor about, like, issues that to look for, and financial stuff, and not because I was like, you need to grow up and figure this out, but it was like, if she's around and she's listening to it, maybe when she experiences it eventually in her life, she'll be like, oh, I remember when my mom was going through this, and it was, so you just kind of let her tag along with the things that you're doing, so she can kind of I mean, I tag her along with the things that I do, so that she can kind of just eventually, when she gets to that point in her life, she'll be like, oh, I remember my mom experiencing this, I just
if
think
she could do it, I could do it.
right. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I would never want her to struggle like I did as far as like being a single mom ever in her life, but I also want her to understand like adulthood, and the things that you have to deal with, and how to handle things. Like I was stressed out, and I would tell her, okay, yeah, I'm stressed, but I know it's going to happen. I just need to like calm down or whatever, and like just work things out. And like, I would just include her in a lot of stuff, so she understands life in general.
That's good.
I mean, I'm not like asking her like, well, what do you think? Like, should we do this? we're not making decisions together. I'm just including her in the process
that would be a lot of pressure on her.
right. I'm not like, well, what do you think? Should I put down this much? Like,
should we buy it?
yeah. I mean, I would show her houses with me. Like, when we would go look at houses, and I would bring her with me. I'm like, what do you think? And so I would make it so that she understood that, or she felt like her input or her like opinion mattered. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I understand. Like, oh, you want, so then I knew what she wanted to in a house. Not that, I mean, maybe you could make a decision off of that, maybe not. I don't know. But it's important to give her a voice too,
What about dating?
Man, dating is tough. Dating is tough. Yeah, it's still tough. Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough.
Well, like break it down. Like when she was a baby, was it like easier? How about like when she was a kid versus now that she's a teenager?
Well, it's always hard because you just never know what their intentions are, so it's like trying to read men and like, okay, are you really into me, or are you like just into me because you want to get,
so do you
whatever.
tell them right off the bat that you have a kid, or no, or you wait like
no
a few months?
You gotta know that I have a kid. There's no hiding that. It's like, I think that's probably like the most important thing, is to say you have a kid if they don't already know, because that eliminates already people who don't want to be with women that have kids, so it's like, okay, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours, cool. Like and she's a part of me, she's a big part of my life, why would you not want to know right away, so
Yeah.
I don't.
But so in that situation, like, how would you, like, hi, nice to meet you, or like, have you dated
Hey, I'm
online?
Stella. I have a kid.
Hi, I'm Stella. I have a kid. Yeah, like, how do you bring that up? Because I know a lot of single moms who this is a question, like, how do you bring that up in conversation if it never gets asked? Like, if the guy never asks you, then you're like, yeah, and I have
And
a
it's
kid at
someone you're
home.
totally feeling too, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I don't want to scare them away.
Well, you can get in like, oh, hold on, I gotta text my kid real quick, like make sure she's okay, and then like, no.
Oh,
But
there you go. You just drop it like that.
But have you ever done that and they like freaked out?
no, but I, like, oh, you have a kid? Yeah, she's, this old, whatever. And then they're like, oh, okay. And usually they'll either ask me more, or just that's the end of the conversation.
I feel like today though, it's more common. Like I feel like everyone has kids though. Like it should be like a question that's asked now, because
you know what? It normally really is a question. If they don't, yeah, like it's something that's said right away. I think it's just like, either I get asked like, oh, do you have kids? And I'm like, yeah, I have one. Oh, how old? And then just tell them how old they are, and that's it. But or I don't know how I would mention it, but I know I bring it up somehow.
Yeah.
But it's just
like the dude. Do you ever ask the dudes if they have kids?
Yes.
Like right away.
Do you prefer to date somebody who has kids?
It doesn't really matter to me.
Was there a time where you had hoped to meet somebody who had kids so she could like have like a
A
playmate
friend.
or
When
and
she
that they
was
would be more
okay, so
understanding of the needs of a child, you know?
when she was younger, she asked for siblings. I mean, all the time. At one point, she even imagined them. But I think I was so tainted with the way my relationship went when I had her that I never considered it again. I was like, nope, I'm not having kids again. And then what? End up being a single mom with two kids, like I
Yeah.
just, I don't think I trusted relationships for a long time. Um, so I didn't go on many dates, and if I did, it was like, I don't know, I just didn't have any expectations.
Hmm.
Younger, when she was younger. And then I dated again when she was probably about 8 or 9, I think she was. And it ended up being another horrible relationship, like right away. He was so charming. Just bring me flowers, taught my kid how to ride a bike, like all those things. And I thought, okay, like maybe I just had
This
it
is
all
the
wrong,
one.
right? Like I was like, all right, we can do this, like he was into my kid and all this stuff. And it took me a little while to introduce. It wasn't like right away. And then a year in, I found out he had like a sugar mama for 9 years. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, we're done. So
Oh,
that really like hit
It's
me again with that.
traumatizing.
Yeah, like I put up a wall again. So I stopped dating for a long time. And I just couldn't, I'm like, man, I cannot trust any guy. It's just
yeah.
hard. It really is hard. And yeah, so I just bring it up right away, like, yes, I have a kid. This is how it is, and this is what you get.
Take it
Do
or
you,
leave it.
yeah, take it. Do you allow them to meet your kid right away, or do you kind of hold off for a while? Like, how do you do it?
Well, it depends, right? Like if it's um
When she was younger, well, let's say, because I know she's older now, so I'm sure
yeah,
things are different, right?
no, I didn't really introduce her. Actually, to this day, I haven't really introduced her to anybody, like anyone that's been interested in me.
Hmm.
Or like that I've tried talking to or see what's going on. Like I just don't because of that last relationship. Like I felt that move kind of fast and I introduced them and yeah, he was good to her and he taught her how to ride a bike and all those nice things, but it backfired on me. Like I didn't really know him and he ended up having like some older woman taking care of him and I like he had a whole completely different life while we were having a relationship. And I'm like, man, this guy was like nice to my kid. He was showing her how to ride a bike. He was buying her things like, and it just really like, it really traumatized me. Like you can't trust anyone. So now I'm just like, I don't want to bring anybody into her life. The only like guys that have met her are just like friends, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
nobody that I'm dating or anything like that because I just don't know where it's gonna go. But like if I have a friend that's just, friend, platonic friend and
Hmm.
she's around, like I'm like, cool, this is my daughter, whatever. And it's, it doesn't really matter
So,
because it's not like I don't introduce guys to her. I'm very careful about which guys.
yeah. So, did she ever go through like a time where she didn't like a guy that you brought around?
No, because I'd never really bring,
Brought like a date other
yeah,
than
like
that one
someone that
guy.
I would date. I don't
Hmm.
really bring them around. So she doesn't really know me. Like if I go to dinner with someone or, meet someone that I'm talking to. Um,
And is that more because you want to protect her from it, or is that because you're afraid to like? What are your thoughts? Like, what's behind that?
um, I'm afraid of not that she'll meet someone and know them. It's more of like, what if I start to talk to someone and I really like them and she really likes them and then something happens and he's just gone.
Hmm.
He's like, how do I explain that? Like, hey, it didn't work out between us. And like, it's just what, like, do I explain everything? Do I tell her? it didn't work out. This happened. This is why we broke up. Like, she's gonna have questions, right? Like, what do I say? So I just kind of wait. I'm just waiting to see if someone eventually makes it past the point where we're like in a good place where I could say, okay, are we thinking future? Because if we are, then we can move forward and I can introduce you. But if it's just like, I don't know, just like, let's see what's gonna happen, I'm kind of afraid of that.
And that other guy, did she take the breakup kind of hard because she did like that guy who you were dating?
You know what? Surprisingly, she was okay. She did like him. She spent some time with him, but um, you know what? It was pretty bad. I was more hurt of how it happened, not because we stopped dating. It was because I felt embarrassed. I felt humiliated. So I was really sad about that. And I think she saw that and just kind of like, she felt like she was taking care of me more than she cared about the
Like
guy.
she never asked questions like, oh,
No.
where did so and so go? Or why doesn't he come around anymore?
No, she didn't. She just like saw that I was sad. I think she was old enough, I think, to understand that maybe I was sad because of him, but she never asked.
Oh, and you never told her any of the details or
She
like
knows
any.
now, older, now that she's older, like we've talked about, or she's heard me talk about it before. And so she's like, oh, that's what happened. Like, she'll talk to me later and like, yeah,
Now it makes sense,
yeah.
Mom.
But
Yeah.
when she was little, like, she was not going to understand all that,
Yeah.
and it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was her business yet, like it's too adult for her at the time to
Mhm.
understand, like, oh, well, he had another girlfriend that was way older than him that was giving him money, and that's why he, explain that.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't want to plant that seed into her head,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
such a young
Well,
Like,
and
oh,
age.
you can have two girlfriends?
I know.
and bringing that up, like, that's another reason why I don't want to bring a lot of, I mean, not that I'm like dating around or anything, but if I meet people and I'm dating them or I'm just talking to them to see where it's going, I don't really bring those up to her because I don't want her to think like, um, why are you talking to this guy and now that guy? What happened to that guy and this guy? Like, there's just so many questions, like, and it's just more complicated than like, it's, this guy has that, or this guy treated me this way, or this guy only wants one thing, like, there's just so, I don't want to
Like,
talk
get out
about
of my business.
Well, no, it's just, I feel like sometimes it's just like, I don't want to teach her those things. I want to teach her more like, when you know what I mean? Like, when he's treating you good, then, keep pursuing that instead of like the negative stuff. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like I was negative for a long time about men. And I don't want her to feel that, So
That's
I want
good.
her to have a healthy relationship with someone eventually. And I don't want to feed her brain with the negative stuff that I've been experiencing and the negative stuff that I was feeling, because I want her to have a different perspective about dating and love, and just I want her to experience good stuff.
Are
Good
you
for you.
actively, I know you didn't really date a lot, but are you hoping to meet somebody to like have a long-term relationship with, or are you kind of not in a rush and it's like if it comes, it comes?
Oh man, so for a long time I was like, no, I don't want. Well, let me take that back. There was a time where I felt that my friends were they were growing up before me, like they were getting married, having kids, they were, building these families and buying homes and doing all these things at a certain phase in my life where I felt like, oh my God, how come I'm not finding someone? Like, how come nobody loves me? Like I was always like, I just wanted someone, but I think at the time it was for the wrong reasons. Like, it was because other people were starting to move on from my life, and so I wanted those things, but it was completely for the wrong reasons. It wasn't because I wanted to find love. I wanted someone to take care of me, and that's because I was tired of being by myself. But then I think as I started to kind of like, I gained a lot more strength from talking to my parents more about like taking care of myself and doing more for myself, like continue to go to school, or going to work and trying to pursue the next position up and just doing the next like independent thing, you know, and just keep building that strong foundation for us. I started to think less and less about a man taking care of me. And so then I think at some point I just felt so independent and felt like I was doing so good, like on my own and just taking care of myself and my kid, that I ended up becoming like I don't need no man kind of woman.
Yeah.
And so I stayed like that for a long time. My mentality was like that for a long, long time. Like I don't need no one. It's fine. I could do it. I could take care of it. I can change the shower head in my shower, you know, like those things. And but now I think that as my kid is getting older and I'm like, oh, she's 15, she's going to turn 18 and go to college and move away. And I'm just going to be in my house by myself.
Empty nest.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm still young. Like, why would I don't want to be by myself.
Yeah.
So recently I've like opened up more about finding someone and trying to build a life with someone. But I know that I also have to be patient and like take my time on getting to know people and seeing if things kind of align together. So I mean, I'm not in a rush, but I'm open to the idea right now.
Does she want to
Hint,
leave for
hint.
college?
We've talked about it. I mean, she's still kind of she's a sophomore right now. And honestly, with this whole like online school, she's not doing so well. She's struggling because
I feel
she's
like all of our kids are
Yeah.
she's
struggling
a
with this
social
online.
butterfly. So she's missing that interaction with people. So I know it's tough. I teach online too. So I'm like, I get it. I understand. So I try to have sympathy with her and we talk about it and try to come up with a plan for her to like get herself back on track.
Mhm.
So I think right now she's more focused on trying to get this year together. But yeah, we've talked about college. You know, I know she kind of wants to leave Fresno and see what else is out there, which I don't blame her because I did the same thing.
Right.
But we'll see, I guess, when the time comes.
You're like, can I go with you?
Yeah, I know. Well, funny thing, I just bought a house this year, but before this year, I was like, wherever she goes to college, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna move there. And
Yeah.
so like I'm like whispering in her ear, like, go to LA, go to San Francisco, go somewhere.
Like, where are we going, girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
But
that mom.
yeah, I'm like, let's get out of here. I was like, man, before that I wanted to go everywhere, and then I got pregnant and I got stuck here. So now you're my ticket out. But I bought a house and now I'm chill.
Oh, you mean you're not moving down south anymore?
Oh, yeah, remember for the longest time I was telling you I'm gonna move down there. I'm gonna move. Then I did.
Yeah, you were supposed to be my babysitter.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
No, for real, we talked about it. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I need a babysitting job. Yeah, college is something we talked about. I'm still in school actually right now.
Like through the different stages of her life, like baby, kid, you know, teenager, when you dated someone, did you notice like the different reactions from like the guys you would date? Like if you said you had a baby, like were they more freaked out versus someone you told that you had a teenager? If that makes any sense.
Oh, interesting.
Good question.
Man, I'm trying to think back, like how far. When they were young, when she was younger, yes, I think they got freaked out because she was little. Like, am I gonna like
Raise this kid.
like, are you looking for someone to be like a stepdad? Like, what's up with
Mhm.
that? You know? And I get it. Like, I was like, not right now, but yeah. So I think the difference. I've had questions like, what's it like being like having a teenager? You know, like I don't know if they're trying to fill out like what kind of relationship they're getting themselves into.
Or, I mean, teenagers are all different. You don't know what kind of teenager you're walking into. Like somebody with
Right,
a crazy
yeah.
attitude or not, you know?
I've heard of some stories of my kids' friends, you know. She's a good kid, you know. I think she's a lot like me, but there's certain things where I feel like she's a lot smarter than me at her age. Um, I think I've talked about everything that I could with her, like before it happened, because I put myself in the situation where she, like, at her phase in her life, like I remember going through that. So we talk about it, like this is how it was for me. I'm sure it's not that different. Just look out for these things. So we have a really healthy relationship. We talk about everything.
So is that something that you recommend, is kind of like talking about something before it actually happens? So like if she's 15 and she's going to be, starting to like boys or whatever, you're going to talk about it earlier before she actually brings it up to you, because you want to make sure that she knows like she can come to you. Is that
my approach?
Yes.
Yes. So I'll give you an example. So when she was in 6th grade that summer, we talked a lot about the transition to middle school, right? And I was like, okay, so here's the thing. And I'm very like, I don't sugarcoat things. I try to be as real as possible with her. Because my mom was a sugarcoat. She liked to sugarcoat things. So then when I got to a point where I came across a problem, like, oh my God, how do I deal with this? But so with her, I'm like, okay, we're not doing that, because I want you to expect these things. So we had a conversation. I said, look, you're going into a bigger school. There's going to be kids from, different other areas in town, and everyone's raised differently. So they're not going to think like your friends that you grew up with. So I said, just watch out for new girlfriends, or even the friends that you have, because they change, like there's boys that start to change their mind, change their attitudes. There's other friends that have, like they'll start talking like with language, right? Like they'll start saying the F word and B word. We talked about how girls they'll start, they'll be your friend, but then go and talk about you to other people or misconstrue the things that
Caddy.
I was like, so just kind of watch out for don't say too much to people until you know who you can trust. I'm like, yeah, talk about things freely, be who you are, but don't be so quick to tell them everything. Like when you go through things, don't be so quick to say, I like this boy and we did this, and like we talked about this and that, or I hung out with friends and we did this and that, because they come back and they misconstrue things, and then you have people like talking about you. And I was like, so just be a people watcher. Like look at what they like. If they're doing things, if they're coming to you and they're talking about other people they're close to, just think about that. And I was like, think about it so like much to like, so that you can understand that she is going to turn around and tell that person the same things. And then boys, as like at that age, is like, you guys are going to go through so many hormones, like because you guys are changing, you're going through like periods, and boys are going through they're going through their stuff. And I was like, so the hormones are all over. Yeah. Yes. So when they like, don't let them pressure you into this or that. Don't let them talk to you all sweet, and just be very careful before you like tell people your stuff or trust people. And so I think that opened up the conversation. So she would go to school and she's like, oh, well, mom, going through this, and this girl's this and that. What do you like this? Like, what do you think? Like, is she being genuine? Is she not my friend? Or what do you think? So it was easier to give her advice from that point on, because you've already opened the door to watch out for people. And it's not to have her have it wasn't for her to have trust issues. It was for her to just be careful, if that makes any sense.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
I think it's better to make them be a little bit more aware of their surroundings than for them to live in a rainbow and then be devastated when it comes crashing down on them, because it's guaranteed that somebody's going to do you wrong,
Right. And in actuality, sorry, I can't talk. She her best friend that she had like growing up, that 7th grade year was a year that they stopped being friends. They just met new people and they went different ways. Like my daughter's very like she keeps her circle very tight. So she doesn't, and I don't know if that had anything to do with me talking to her about like, be careful who you trust, but she sticks to the same friends, and she just pretty much like, she talks to everyone. She's a social butterfly, but she only like trusts in certain people. And she's okay with just friends with one or two people, and not like being all over the place with groups. But her other friend was, she wanted to be a part of this group and that group, which is fine, right? Like that was just the way that she was going towards. And she just felt like those friends that she was making wasn't really aligning with my daughter's personality. So they kind of split up. And I would tell her that's okay. You know, those are things that happen. You grow up and you just go separate ways, you know, but you find other people that are more like you.
Mhm.
And so she was okay with that. It didn't, I mean, she felt sad, but she, I don't think that she really took it too much to heart, because she was understanding that everyone's growing and changing.
That's good. I feel like sometimes the girlfriend breakups are harder than like actual boyfriend breakups, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you confide so much in your girlfriend and you trust them with
Trust them.
everything. And then when
Mhm.
you guys break up or, you know, stop talking, you're just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And they know so much about you, and you're like, oh shit, she
Mhm.
has all my secrets.
And that's
Right.
Especially if
daddy.
they start talking to somebody
Yes.
who you both didn't really
Used
care
to,
for, and then
not
you're
like,
like, are
yeah.
you telling them everything that I told you? Like now you're an enemy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I just try to, like I said, I just try to talk to her about things before they happen, or when I see things kind of starting to go that way. When she started to like boys, I'm like, okay, just, you know, like really, really pay attention. Are they really into you, or are they just trying to like claim a girlfriend, you know, or whatever guys do at the time, you know? And so, yeah, I feel like she's made really good decisions till this day, you know, about friendships and about like who to trust and how to handle things. And she's very open with me when she's going through stuff. And I mean, there's times when, I mean, there was times when she would tell me like, look at what this girl texts me. And it's like this long, you know, thing. And she's like, I think she's trying to get information and, you know, just a bunch of like girl drama. And I'm like, just respond with this. And they'll be like, just say noted, like give her one word, you know, text, and then she won't know what to do with that. Like, okay, I got you, I heard you, and I don't need to deal with it
Mhm.
no more. It's like they won't know how to respond with that because you're not fueling to what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
she's kind of learning like the less she says and the less she feeds into like the drama stuff, like the less responses that she'll get from them, and they'll leave her alone. And I'm like, girls are crazy. I told her they'll want to like, they try to act like your friend, and then you get all these weird questions or like weird attitudes and like kind of in underlining, you know. And I was like, just leave it alone, don't stress, just tell her okay and move on. And it's like, look mom, it worked.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So I think for me, or for our relationship, I have been able to be open with her about things before they happen has really opened up those doors for her to come to me when things are happening. And like take my advice, and we can figure it out together. And I mean, I get it, there's so much drama in in their teenage years. I'm not surprised by a lot of things that I hear.
Now,
No, that's so
what are some of the stereotypes that you've gotten as a single mom, if any?
um I don't know, I think I've just always been so busy taking care of us, I don't really know if I heard of any stereotypes. In the beginning, her dad used to tell me all the time, who's gonna want you with the kid? I mean, that's like as
Yeah.
most hurtful as I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that had to do a little bit with my depression. Thinking like, man, who is gonna want someone where like their body's been stretched and you know doesn't look the same anymore with the newborn baby? That was probably the most hurtful one.
How did
Other
you get through that one? Let's hang on to that one because I feel like I've heard that one before too from a lot of moms who have been single. How did you get through that? Or how do you recommend somebody getting through that?
I think I was young, right? So it was a mental game. It was for him telling me that who would want me with a kid, it was total manipulation to get me to either, I mean, I'm assuming at the time, try to get me back, and make me feel like I had nothing else but him, you know, like there was nothing better than just to be with him. Um, but I didn't take it that way. I just took it like, I try not to let him get into my head. You know, just I would rather, I think at the time I was like, I'd rather be here depressed thinking of who would want me than to go back to him. And so I just had to really pull through as much as I could, try to get busy on doing things for myself, like go back to school and trying to find a job, like just stay busy, do things, just whatever you can that you know is going to make a difference for you and your kid. You know what I mean? Like that's more important. Okay, nobody wants me, whatever. You know, just kind of, for me, that was what happened. I was like, I can't let that worry me and bring me down, because I have a bigger issue here. Like I need to learn how to be a mom. I need to learn how to take care of her. I need to learn how to, like I need to make plans. I need to have a stable foundation for us. I'm never going to move forward if I'm dwelling on no one's going to want me.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a mental thing, I guess. You have to just kind of pull through. And then for me, I had to find something for myself to not just always constantly working or trying to figure out how to make money and survive. I had to find something too that was going to let me release like stress and just not, and focus on whatever the hobby is. So for me, it was working out. For a long time, I don't know what I was doing, but I went anyways. I'm like, I don't know what to do with nutrition and fitness and how to lose weight and all that stuff to make me feel better. But the first thing was show up, right? Just show up and just go consistently. I think along the way I'll learn, you know? So I've evolved in the last, I don't know what, 6 years. I went from like just going to do cardio to like doing CrossFit now. And so that's been my outlet, like to go out and learn more about working out and nutrition and taking care of myself. Like I have to find that for myself too. And so now I don't worry about who's going to want me or anything like that. Like we're good. I was like, I've been able to, I mean, I went from, in the beginning, from being depressed back to school, and then getting on like welfare and food stamps and all those things to try to like get somewhere eventually. And then, you know, little by little, just finding a job that makes more money. And then, you know, just trying to figure out how to get out of having food stamps, and, you know, just always trying to climb up, you know, just try to move on to the next best thing and make more money and better job. And so it was always moving forward.
What would you say to moms who are where you were in your hard times, where they felt like no one's gonna want them?
Oh man, it's hard because at the time it feels hard to come out of a depression. It feels like it's never gonna end. It feels like every day is just as bad as the last day, you know, like I mean, I laid in bed for days and crying and not knowing what to do and not knowing how to like, I didn't know how to clear my mind to say, okay, let's make a plan. Like I needed my parents at the time to pull me out of that. My dad is very big on, I'll always remember this, and this is what pulled me through. My dad had told me one day, he said, you need to learn how to do things for yourself, become independent, get a job, be financially stable, and just figure out how to do things on your own. Because one day you might get married, but he might leave you, cheat, die, and then what? You know, what are you going to do if you're always dependent on a man? He's like, so you need to learn how to do things on your own and not depend on anyone else. Because you never want to be in that position where you feel worthless or like you have no idea where to start. So I think that's always been instilled in my head. So I'm like, you know, even to this day, like if I ask, so my brother lives with me, and if I ask him like, hey, can you throw out the trash? And if he doesn't do it right away, I'm like, forget it, I'll do it. Like I'm just like quick to just take care of things all the time. Like if it's not done when I need it to get done. And And I think it's just the way my dad had like instilled that in me. Like, if someone can't do it for you, go get it done. It's just that simple. You don't know,
Yeah.
go ask and then get it done. And so my parents pulled me out of that, I think.
So for
I think
our listeners, Stella, a lot of them want to know, how do you balance your mom life, like with work life and school life and me time, because you're doing it all on your own?
that's hard. It's hard, but I've gotten to a point where I'm very routine now. So it's just making a plan for like, I wake up early, go for a walk. That's me just kind of like trying to start my day. And then, it's me and my kid trying to get ready for school. And then right now it's kind of different because we're home. So I'm teaching, and then on my breaks I'm cooking, and I'm doing all the mom things that everyone's doing right now. And then when we're done, it's like, here's my thing, like, I try to make sure that I always go and do something for myself every day. So for me, it's gym. I don't know, everybody can have something different, whether it's like, I don't know, going for a walk or going out with a friend, or whatever it is, right? You go sit outside and read a book, or whatever it is that you need to do for yourself to unwind. Go out and do pedicures, manicures, whatever it is. Always do it because you need it. And like, if you need to do it, just do it. Just make the time. And then I also make sure that I make time for her. So for us, it's, hey, let's watch a movie, or like, let's go out and shop. But I don't do it so where it's like a chore. It's like, oh, I need to get something from Target. Let's go to Target. It's like, no, what do you want to do? Let's do something for us. Like, you want to go out and shop? Let's go and shop. So I always make sure that she knows that I want to do something for her. So I just I don't know how to explain how to balance it, because I just feel like when you know that your kids need your attention, like, you just make that time. If I know that I'm overwhelmed and stressed, I know that I need that time for myself. So I make the time. So it's just about knowing like when you need it or when they need it, and you just make sure that you do it. You make time for it. I don't know how like to really explain, because for me, it's just like I said, I'm very routine. It's like, I walk, I work, we do something together, whether movie, whatever. And then I go and work out, come back, and it's like we're making food, and we sit down and we watch maybe another show together. I don't know how to, it just depends on, it's hard to like,
feel it. You just go.
yeah,
You
I
go
just
with
feel it. But
Yeah.
I always just make sure that she knows that if she needs me, I'm there. But I also make sure that she knows that if I need my time away, that she understands that I need my time away.
Mhm.
So at this point, like, I think when they're younger, it is a little bit harder because they always need you. And if you have multiple kids, they need you at different times. But I would say if you have a support system, like, use it. I've always made sure that I use my parents. Like, I know that sometimes I'm very prideful, and I don't want, like, man, my kid's already been at my mom's last weekend. I don't want to take another weekend. But no, like, I mean, personally, my parents, they'll never get tired of seeing my kid. So I use them a lot. And it's okay, like, you shouldn't feel bad. I know that my mom never was like, oh, you're going out again, like, oh, you're bringing her to me again, like, what are you doing? Or I don't know, I know there's some people that their parents don't want to take care of them because they think that they're out doing this and that. But just communicate with your support system, and just tell them, I need some time.
And I think there's a difference between, I'm sure you never abused it, like, I'm sure there's like some
Oh,
people
I did in my
who
20s.
like take, you definitely, you said you definitely tried.
In my 20s, yes.
Well,
But
you're
you know
lucky
what?
then that you had parents that were that cool, that were just
But
gonna take
what? For me, it was just because I had, I guess, what you call now FOMO. Like, I always wanted to be part of like that. I was in college, I was in my 20s. I was in college. I was like I mean, my friends didn't have kids, but they were out going to the clubs and doing the after parties. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be a part of that. Like, I want to experience it. So yeah, I mean, I did it a few times and I told my parents and, but yeah, I mean, I evolved and I grew up and then I kind of got over it, but so I don't abuse it anymore. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you need it.
And that's interesting coming from a family who your parents were strict on you at one time. You know, you would sometimes parents even get even more strict when you become a single parent, you know? So that's pretty cool that they were lenient and they let you have freedom and stuff.
Yeah,
And
well,
being
my mom
watched.
is very, she understood. I think she understood me a lot because when my dad was really strict and was like, no, you can't do this. No, you know, you had to be home at a certain time and no, you can't. My dad was always no. And my mom would be like, oh, I know, you just want to like hang out. I get it. You're young, you're this and that. And so I think she understood that I got restricted a lot in my teenage years. So when I got older and she's like, it's okay, go have fun, you know, like she'll be fine. And so
Like you earned it. You deserve it.
well, I think she just understood that I was very outgoing and I wanted to experience things. And so I think that's what helped in a sense, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I kind of took advantage sometimes, like every weekend for a little while, but I don't know. I think she just understood that I wasn't gonna do anything bad. It was more just to try, like releasing myself, like, you know, just being open and like free spirited, you know, because I was always on during the week. I was like, okay, work, school, kid, you know. So, I don't know if she felt like I like necessarily deserved the time, but I know that she knew that I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stella, how can we better show up for the single moms in our lives?
Always make sure that you have, I think a lot of times we get so busy taking care of them and trying to figure out the next step, like where do I go from here to make like a stable home for them, you know, because we're constantly thinking about working and surviving and providing and all those things. I think sometimes we have to remember to take a break from thinking that way and just spend time with them, get to know them, hear them out. You know, sometimes I've done this where like I'm just like, you know, don't bother me. I'm tired. I just want a day to relax. But listen to them, you know, like you get to know their personalities and then you like just bond with them and build that relationship with them. I think that sometimes more important than stressing yourself out about providing, you know, because it is hard. You have to be mom and dad. You have to like have sympathy and be strict. And you have, you know, there's just, it's hard to balance what they need when it's only you. But I think at the end of the day, you also have to remember like build the relationship with them versus just thinking about or like stressing about just taking care of them, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
they have other needs versus like just food on the table, roof on their over the head, you know, clothes on their back. Like they also need that like cuddle time, that time where they like talk your ear out and you have no idea what they're talking about, but you still gotta listen. You know, just their problems that you think it's like, oh, that's an easy fix, don't worry about it. But to them it's a big deal and they're trying to like express those things to you. I don't know, just different like their needs, their personality, their what's the word I'm looking for, like um their emotional needs, you know, like those are also important than just providing. So sometimes you got to turn off the stress, don't worry about it, and just spend time with them. I think for that's what helped me have the relationship that I have with my kid.
But for people who have single moms as friends or like family members, like how can they help their single mom friends or family members out?
um I
Like, what do you
mean,
wish a friend or a friend, how do you wish friends showed up for you when you were in the trenches of like your hard times?
oh man, I think for me, I just for my friends, I just wanted them to think of me, and even if they thought like I couldn't because I had a kid, like just ask me, invite me, like include me. I may say no because I can't, but if I really felt like I could make the time, or I really wanted to do it, like I would figure it out and I would go and try to spend time with them or do things that I couldn't do with a kid. Because sometimes when we're taking care of our kids, we don't always know what's going on, right? Like birthday parties or like girls' night out or whatever, those things are being planned. And if we're not getting invited, and like, well, now with social media, you see like, man, they all hung out and they didn't tell me.
I know.
And
It's
I'm like,
awful. It's even
man, like,
worse.
you just have like give me a text like, hey, we're gonna go here, like can you get out of being a mom for the day,
Yeah.
and I would make the time or figure it out, right? Like ask my mom or my brother, or like, hey, can you go to your friend's house, like leave me alone for a minute. But yeah, I think for the most part, just like think of us, like think about your friends that have kids that need to escape, and if that might be their opportunity to say like, all right, kid, you're going to grandma's. Like, I gotta go watch this movie with the girls and have a couple drinks, and I'll be back later. I don't think that necessarily we need someone. I mean, for me personally, like I was always in the mindset of taking care of everything by myself. That I never really searched for someone to like financially help me or support me or like, hey, babysit for me. It was more like, just think of me, like yes, I have a kid, but I also want girl time.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never really asked anybody for anything, but yeah, except that, like, just think of me, like ask me, invite me, you know.
Yeah.
Include me, please.
I want friends too.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a mom, I don't have a
Stella,
disease, like
thank you, Stella, for being so vulnerable and sharing your story with us. We know you inspired a lot of moms out there today. How can people find you? Like your website, Instagram handle?
So, mom hustler here. I'm an independent rep for a company called Zaya Active, which is activewear. So if anyone is looking for activewear for the workouts, I'm your girl. And you can find me at Stela _active. So STELA _active on Instagram. So yeah, I just post a lot of the new releases every Wednesday and just a lot of good stuff.
We'll link that in our show notes so everyone can go and show you some love.
Thanks, guys. I hope my story inspires somebody or helps someone out.
It did. I'm sure it did.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you want to catch up on our previous episodes, visit mamasmimosas.com, where you'll get access to all of our podcast show notes, our YouTube videos, and our private Facebook group, where we chat with you about each episode topic and host live Q&As with our fave mom tribe. Can't wait to see you there.